Hello, everyone joining us for episode 25 of A Measure of Marketing, all about the pros and cons of content marketing. Lots of angles here, Kelly, lots of angles.
Lots of angles, lots of feelings about I used to have a corporate role in content marketing, and damn, it was tough.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Never ending. Yeah, it was a slog, let's say, for definite.
Yeah, you just churn.
Absolute churn, yeah. And I think I'm probably still in that mentality. Like if you with content overall, when I talk to clients, I'm like, let's just not go there today. Like, and I also like try and teach it as in like, I'm not going to tell you the potential reality of this is not your life. But there's a way more positive way to a way more pro way that we can talk about it. So let's do that.
Yes. Okay.
What are the pros in your mind, Hayley, of content marketing?
Well, content marketing is a strategy that I think everyone can adopt. For me, the biggest pro of content marketing is creating trust with your customer. It sort of bridges that gap, I think, between people thinking about what they need to help them and then finding what they need to help them. And be it you created a video or a blog post, and we talk about content. There's loads of different types of content, which we'll probably get onto. But it's generating trust and credibility for what you know, for what you do, for the product and the service that you offer. And I think people glaze over the idea of creating content because there are cons for creating content, which we'll get onto, but they glaze over it because it can be time hungry, and that's one of the cons. But if you just put yourself out there in a way that people can relate to and resonate with, you're already creating that trust and bridging that gap and raising your profile through that content. So that for me is number one in terms of the biggest pro.
Definitely.
Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Visibility, credibility, just showing what you're about as well. But also, when you was talking then, Hayley, I was thinking, if you just position content marketing away from what I just said as the intro, and actually think of it as, how can I help somebody with this bit of content? Even if you go, I'm showing who I am, but how can I help somebody with something educational, an opinion that I've got on something that I've learned, a place that I've been, even tagging someone in a piece of content if it's on social media, for example. That's all helping somebody and yourself secondary, and your business. So yeah, for me, that's how I try and position it for myself sometimes and to clients. Is you have so much opportunity to help somebody through all different types of content marketing, and different types and channels allow you to be in front of a different people that you probably won't get the opportunity to meet face to face because of time, location, etc. Like the opportunity to create visibility through content through different channels is pretty huge when you think about it.
It is, and for different reasons, or strategic reasons as well, that you can use content. So it's not just showing how you help someone, it's also showing your credibility through client advocacy. So creating content that demonstrates how you've helped other clients and raising their profile. Or it could even be about your team culture, so that it helps support your employer brand if you're on a recruitment drive. So how could you shine a spotlight on your 3 newest recruits over a period of 2 to 3 months with content of how they have found the recruitment process, the onboarding, induction, company culture, because that ticks a box. Then if one of your objectives is to recruit X amount of people for this purpose, content is going to support that. So I think you could tap into content marketing in so many different ways, that it's not just to highlight what you do and how you help. It can meet so many other business objectives, whatever size company you are.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we probably don't do, because when we're talking about content, I guess I think that term's thrown around quite a lot as well. But we're actually all producing content so much more frequently than what we actually think. Like every time you hit post or publish on something, that content is out there, and that's almost a little bit of PR for yourself and for your business as a small business owner at the same time. But yeah, content is, shall we just run through what actually content marketing is and like some different examples?
Yeah.
So we're thinking here, I think you can think of content for social media immediately. That tends to be the questions that I get. Everyone instantly goes to social media, but there is like podcasts like we're doing now, right? Video content, photography. We have some photographer guests on here as well. Got one coming up. Blog posts, website. What else?
Speaking opportunities, even in conversations with and Q&As in a group session, being a panelist, that's creating content. Even a press release is a piece of content as well. It's just for a different audience. Yeah, I think people forget the breadth. They just think social media, or they just think kind of, you know, or I've got to do a talking head or something else. And it's like, well, no, there are multiple different types of content.
And I guess when you think of another pro on content, so imagine you, two scenarios. Imagine you went on a podcast and the podcast host had been building it for years and they had 500,000 followers. Like that, the pro of creating that content with that co-host, that that podcast host, is you've tapped into their audience, and as long as what you're talking about fits with their audience, you shouldn't be on it otherwise. But like that's a huge pro to that piece of content, right? The visibility,
yeah,
the use of using someone else's audience. But if you take it over to LinkedIn, creating a like carousel on there, putting a video on there, or just doing a post on there, essentially you can tap into other people's audiences as well. If your post is engaging, it generates comments. The algorithm allows you to tap into other people's audiences. So that is a pro. Like I think we can think quite singular, like what do I need to post today? I haven't posted this week yet. Let's just get something out there. Actually, if you go back to what you just said around pausing, what is the purpose of this? Which part of the strategy does it hit? Which, I don't know, content pillar it hits? Are we helping somebody here? Are we shouting about our team here? What are we actually doing? And then really thinking about, okay, how engaging can we make it to tap into other people's audiences and organically get that reach from it? Like just one post can get quite strategic as well. Like,
yeah,
we just don't pause enough, have enough time to think about every single post in that way. But if you start getting into that mindset with content marketing, you get a bit more savvy with it as well.
Yeah, it becomes easier, I think, to streamline.
Yeah.
So another pro, which is slightly away from say social media and all of that, and the need or the speed to create content, because there's this urgency to post to social media, which I'm sure we'll come on to as well. It's basically doing some of the heavy lifting for your business development and your sales bod or your sales team. So for me, I mentioned like client advocacy and raising their profile so that other people who are similar kind of businesses to your clients can go, oh, if that worked for them, that could work for me. Oh, let me drop them a line. That's great. And they read a blog post or an interview, or they catch a case study that you've created that helps them. But what you're doing is you're doing all of that manual lifting for your sales team. You're strengthening your pipeline with every piece of content. And as well, I think what people forget is the idea of case studies or creating collateral that sales teams can use before and after a conversation that they have. You've kind of funneled them, for the better word, to a point where they arrange a date and a time to meet, and they send them a blog post that is client advocacy orientated, so people can read that before the call. After the call, they get sent the case study, so it follows up. I think, you know, it's not just about social media and quick fire pieces of content. There's depth to creating good content to help your sales teams, and this is where sales and marketing really do need to work closer. And it's the insights from sales that drives the ideas for marketing to create that collateral that then, you know, does that work for them, and you kind of let them glide there. And it's like that swan, you know, you've done all that manual like kicking under the water, and the sales team, you know, as they do, slide in, have the conversation, and, you know, and go from there. So
yeah, that's an approach that I'm working on with a client at the minute. Actually, is they haven't got a sales team as such because they're quite small team, big in terms of what they're actually doing, and the businesses that they're working with. But another pro for content is, I think we think, again, like, what are we actually, think of a topic for content, whatever it is. But like you say, if you're using that customer insight and really paying attention to what your customer is saying when you're in front of them, what they've said in feedback, even through like Google reviews, things that they've said on email, like some of the words they use to describe you, or how the results that they've received, you can make that into case studies and you can make it into content. So this like customer insight loop is really important. And then if you are posting on social media, we're using a lot of polls in this client's work because it works really well and you get a ton of feedback instantly. And then we can create more content out of that. The salesperson has something to make contact with people about. So we've just got this like nice flow of insight content, sales, insight content. Yeah, it's just well, kind of similar.
It's that research piece as well, isn't it? That there's content around that research piece with all the polls that you're creating. But there's that depth as well to then know what content to create based on those polls. So
yeah, and it's perspective. I think it's I guess our role is to pause and like be a bit of a detective on this type of stuff, so that you just get into that flow then of thinking. But I find that once a small business owner gets that, and it opens up their mind to think about content in a slightly different way and be a little bit more strategic and savvy with it around this customer insight and feedback loop, it makes their life so much easier because they think, okay, a pro of content here is actually I'm just using my customer, and I know my customer already so well. They're in my strategy, so I know them really well. That's a pro. It's not as hard as what we think it is.
It's not. And for all the people that say, I haven't got time to write a blog post, or I haven't got time to create a video. And I understand, for me, creating a video actually is quite timely, whereas you've got other people who go, no, actually create a video is quicker than me writing a blog post. So, okay, great, run with that. Or you always get pushback from clients who go, I haven't got time, or I can't do this, I can't do that. If you don't have time to create that content, you are not supporting potential customers in finding you. And for me, another pro is that content marketing really helps your search engine optimization, because as you say, your website is content in itself, but it's typically brand-led, key messaging. That kind of strategic messaging isn't necessarily going to change from one month to the next, because that's your bread and butter, who you are, your values, what you do and why, and all of that. But it's the blog posts and it's those dedicated thought leadership, pieces, or those pages that you can really tap into the pain points, people's challenges or trends, or things that people are asking Google at any one time. So the content that you then create taps into that. So if you're not doing that, and that's free, Google is free. All that access, that channel, that route to your potential customers or your target audience costs you nothing, barring a bit of thinking time and great.
Yeah. And I was actually going to write a LinkedIn post on this. Is like, if you work on your content on your website and get that SEO right, and you've got blog content on there, your pages are set up really well, that essentially, like, you could probably call that a passive income stream, right? Like you, because if it's working well, like your website works really well for you. I know that, Hayley, like you get inquiries through it, like you're not having to do any work for that then. Like
No.
you can go and do the work, find other clients, network, whatever you want to do. Like that is a passive income stream, I'm sure we can call it that. And that's from content marketing, like solid content marketing from research. Yeah, that I would say that should be an ultimate goal. If you, a lot of people go to social media first, but actually get your website really rocking and rolling, like that. Yeah, that's going to bring work to you without you having to do it. So
I think, totally. And before we go into the cons, because I know that's the next piece, you know, we've talked about social media being people's go-to for marketing at the moment. And this is a Hayley rant. It winds me up because there are so many other channels and strategies out there that work for small businesses. I'm not saying they're any better, because it totally depends on what contacts you have and your industry and where your audience is. But social media marketing really should support everything else that you're doing and integrate it. But I think because people think, you know, it's free, it's easy, everybody's doing it, I need to be doing it, they channel all their energies into it. And it's such a time sucker, and winds me up. There you go.
Sucker. Like, yeah, definitely. But I was chatting to someone yesterday and probably ranting, saying the same, and saying, like, you'll also see small business owners like doing every single channel. And if you just focused your energy on creating content for one that fits your audience, and then you've got some other avenue in your strategy, often collaborations and meeting people and building relationships tends to be the key one for most, then you only really need to do two things, like post on one social media channel that works for you and potentially just do collaborations. This is based on a scenario I was having this week. It's not everybody, but I was like, strip all that out. Like, you don't need to do that. Just do these two things. You can see this one's working for you. Do that. Strip all that out. And let's get really good at this. This is LinkedIn. And this, like collaborations. Like, just focus on that.
Yeah.
Like, these people are over here as well. Like, they're going to be on this social channel. Just focus on that. Let's get your website really good. Let's just start there. And that's still all content. Like, I would say, I guess, collaborating, like the conversation, it can still be content, right? Just like keep it simple.
And if you do branch out and you want to test different channels, or you want to, you know, if you have the confidence to know, I can't keep up with this, and then go, right, okay, let's just put that on the back burner and let's do this. But unless you do that, you don't know. But I agree with you. Start off small, start off with quality, start off with purpose. And then if you wanted to test the waters, because it's all about testing and tweaking and testing again, you know, try it. But you will know, you know, after a little while that it's not working. But I think with different channels, different communities and platforms, you have to give it months rather than weeks to see if it does work. But that is time. And if as a small business owner, you don't have that time, you've got to really focus your energy on where your audience is and really go for it, as you say, or focus on the strategies that are really going to make the difference.
Sure. One thing that I would say, I don't know if this comes in a pro con or it's just an idea or a recommendation here, is when you're thinking of content as well, you were just talking about sales. I always talk about the funnel, which is an old age formula, let's just say. You've got say you use LinkedIn at the top, like mass people, you can be quite selective of who you connect with there. What's the next piece of content that you can create? Well, maybe website at the top, LinkedIn comes next, email marketing's next. Like, try and create content that does funnel people down into having a conversation with you, or at least like think on each channel how your content does that. So get there's mass content opportunities, like a podcast, being on someone's podcast with 500,000 followers. You're still going to have to give them a call to action, aren't you, to get them to follow your Instagram account or visit your website. And then what is that channel doing content wise to move them down to having a one-to-one conversation with you, or getting into an exclusive email situation with you, or Telegram account, or whatever it is. Just really think about, because you can create content en masse, but if it's going nowhere, if you've not got a funnel system happening, that's when you're in this churn of content all the time, but nothing's happening. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. So I'm going to flip that a bit, because the content has to have a purpose. So for one client I've got at the moment, we're creating content that drives people to register for a webinar. And all that content is kind of whetting the appetite and teasing people to find out more about the webinar that's happening in a couple of months' time. So there's a strategic reason for the content. However, for my business, I don't always have a call to action at the end of a blog post. I want to create a repository of know-how and practical advice and guidance for people to tap into. What it does is it wets their whistle for what they could get if they were to work with me. But I said wet their whistle, didn't I? It made you laugh. And it's pull marketing. So I'm pulling in the inquiries. So my strategic reason for creating content is to create that kind of baseline of thought leadership for people, so they get an insight into how my brain works and how I can help them. So I don't always have a purpose to drive or to funnel them into making an inquiry, because most of the time it might take half a dozen blog posts, a few social posts, and some client advocacy for them to then go, yes, okay, I've got a bit of trust here, I'm going to contact her. So I would say mine is a bit different and more of a flatline approach than this linear kind of drive of creating content for that to then lead to that, then to lead to that.
Yeah, you know that works for you though, doesn't it? That works well. But I guess if they're on a blog page on your website, they're going to be able to get to other spaces on your website, aren't they? So retain them in that place for as potentially long as possible, and they can make contact with you there. So that essentially is kind of a funnel in a way.
It's more a bit more integrated, I suppose, than dedicated sales funnel. That would make sense, because I know exactly what you mean. And
I guess content funnels, we think they're like selly and like push people down, but they can be more like subconscious, as long as there's a space for a next step if someone wants to want information from you. Shall we do some quick cons?
I mean,
another half.
I could summarize the cons, I suppose, in a couple of sentences rather than going into each of them, because I think the cons are probably more obvious in that it takes time to create good quality content. It takes a bit of energy, which you don't always have after you've done your day job or you've done, your 9 to 5. And you've got to have that consistency with it, because you just do one piece of content once every 6 weeks, it's not enough. That said, it doesn't have to be every day. It just has to be consistent. If your one blog post every 6 weeks is consistent, that's your consistency, but that's not necessarily going to work. So for me, it's time, energy, consistency are 3 cons that you have to take on, because it's not a quick fix. Even with ChatGPT, if you wanted to use it, there's this human prompt, human brief, the AI result, tweak it a little bit more with the human process, go through then without, if you wanted to go down that route, that still takes time and energy and thinking. That they're my main cons. And once you've done all of that, and once you've got through all of that, it's a slow burn with content marketing. It's not a quick fix. It's not a paid ad that goes boom in your face. It's you're cutting through noise, and you're not getting a straight sale very quickly. It's a long game.
Yeah. I want to cry.
For the corporate content creator, there you go. Just as a trigger for you, going back, the trauma.
Yeah, I think you just have to, it's not a con, this is just a bit of advice. Just know that it comes with business. Like, it just is there. Like, you don't really have much of a choice on it in some sense. Like, you don't. Like, if you want visibility, I mean, the hard truth is, we all want visibility. You want to be in front of the right person, don't we, at the right time potentially, and that is content marketing. It's choosing the right platforms, and content appears on every platform. Like, it is just our life now.
Yeah, it's everywhere now. It pushes, it pulls, and you know, whether you're a business to consume or business to business, it's needed, because it's you have to attract people.
Yeah. And I guess one of the cons is there's so much of it. Like, for you, individual business owner, it's so easy to get caught up in all of the content that you're seeing rather than focusing on your own, and really, just making sure that your content is about you and your brand and your business, and it fits with your values, and you're not copying someone else because you've seen it perform really well, or you're worried about missing out, or you're trying to fit in with trends and things like that. Like, you genuinely just know your audience, love what you do, and create content with a purpose behind it, and use it. Like, if creating a blog post, it will do its thing on the website if you've created it well, but you can then be strategic and share it in different places, and repurpose it, lift it out of its hole 3 months later, share it again. Yeah. I think I've got some LinkedIn posts right.
You know, I think that's the thing as well. It is finding that time to think originally, and that's where you need that brain space, and you need that I suppose clarity of who you're talking to, and understanding of why you're talking to them, but then that focus to be able to create something and originate thought leadership, or a message or a video or communication, because that's what really the content is doing. It's communicating. But as you say, it's forgetting what everybody else is doing and coming up with something that is of quality and relatable to your brand and to your audience. And that's quite hard if you're not a creative kind of thinker, or if you don't think that way. And I suppose this is where, you know, AI tools can help with that, you know, ideation and coming up with different angles and hooks. It's a great use of ChatGPT that I would recommend to small business owners. Just have a dabble and get going with it, because that can, you know, if you're brain dead by the end of the week in the non-medical sense, it can help you out.
Yeah. And I think, like, the more you talk to your customer as well, like, I've had some really great conversations over the last few weeks, and I will just write them down, or when I'm trying to do some more content, I just think back to them conversations, because they're buying off me. They're my ideal customer. I'm able to help them. We're able to see their problem straight away. I'm able to offer a solution. Like, create some content around that, like either solving the problem with a blog post, or I don't know, just reiterating the conversation anonymously into a thought leadership piece. Or there's a ton of stuff that comes out of it, like how I feel about working with on that type of project, the fact that I am, what the customer has said. Like, there's loads of stuff that can come out of working with your ideal customer. Even the initial, what do? We have no clue what we do. Why do they feel that way? All of that sort of stuff. There's a lot of depth to it, and we miss it because of time. We're not present, etc.
Yeah, very much so. That kind of research piece is so valuable. just stop and ask them, how am I helping you? You know, and then you can turn that into something. Even if you're more creative and want to create an infographic, they still exist. They're still good. They're still visual, or an animation or something like that that showcases how you help and what it is that you do. That content, you know, it does go down well. I think people forget. People just get kind of hooked up on, as we say, LinkedIn posts and blog posts and.
Oh, I definitely like doing a reel though.
Oh, you love a reel.
Love a reel, yeah. I'm getting good at them now.
Probably getting quicker, yeah.
Something like 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I need to think. I love doing them. It's just the time that it takes me. By the time I have done everybody else's social media, I then have to think about my own.
Yeah, oh gosh. Yeah, feel for us, guys. Feel for us.
You know, as well as the strategy stuff and the consulting and the triggering of the content creating, we also do a bit of social media posting. So I think we're on good authority. We understand the pros and cons of creating content month on month for ourselves and for our clients. And yes, there's value to it. And then there's the reality that it's time consuming and it's tough going.
Absolutely. That was a good conversation. I enjoyed that.
Yes, I did too. And I had a little moan. I had a little rant. It's always good.
Thank you everyone for listening and watching on Spotify and YouTube. Please give us a like on whatever channel that you have chosen to view, and drop a little comment as well. We have episode 26 coming up with another guest, which will be exciting. And we will see you there.
Yeah, see you there. Thank you, Kelly. Speak to you soon.
Hayley.
Goodbye.
Hey.
Bye.